Hey, KU basketball fans, this is Kansas City Star sports writer Blair Kirchhoff. Check out the new KUHoops.com to keep up to date on everything Kansas basketball. KUHoops.com has in-depth analysis from the Star's award-winning sports writing team, as well as news on recruiting, game previews, video highlights, and much more. KUHoops.com will keep you updated on Coach Bill Self as he tries to take the Jayhawks to their 13th straight Big 12 regular season title and into the NCAA tournament. Go to KUHoops.com now on your PC or mobile device.
Welcome back to the Sports Beat KC podcast. This is Jesse Newell, KU beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. I'm joined once again this week by CJ Moore of Bleacher Report. CJ, how you doing this week?
Jesse, doing well. Ready for Thanksgiving to get here. How are you doing?
It's crazy that it's already here. I feel like just got into November and now we're toward the back half of November, but it should make sense because it's basketball season and it's Champions Classic season, and that's what mostly we're going to talk about in today's episode is KU's 77-75 victory over number 1 Duke in the Champions Classic on Tuesday. I guess I always open up like this, CJ. First impressions, first thoughts after this game where KU improves to 1-1. I know I had predicted that KU would start 0-2 way back in whatever it was, September.
We were both wrong.
Yeah, that didn't happen, but just first impressions from that game and what you saw from KU against Duke.
It was just such a weird game, the way it played out in the first half, and then you finally got to see a glimpse of what KU can really be this year when the Jayhawks are rolling. Once that stretch where Josh Jackson was playing really well and they were defending, and everything was going well. But one thought I have coming out of that game, I think the best thing for KU going forward is the fact that I almost think losing to Indiana was kind of a blessing in disguise because I felt like KU in that game, and what surprised me was, I think KU has the best perimeter defense in the country. The combination of Graham, Mason, Jackson, Vic, and Svi. I don't think you can find a group of 5 better perimeter defenders on any team than that group. And they played pretty crappy defense against Indiana and was just, not really locked in. We're kind of casual. And I think, maybe they went into that game with kind of mentality, we can score with these dudes, whatever, feeling pretty good about themselves. And that was what surprised me in that game was the defense was just pretty mediocre. But in the Duke game early on, didn't defend great. But as the game kind of got, as you got into that game, and they got into the rhythm of the game, they really started defending well. And, really what Duke does, similar to Indiana, is they want to spread you out, break you down off the dribble, make you help, and, get threes. And Duke was able to do a little bit of that, but really I thought Kansas did a pretty good job of defending on the perimeter against a team that's really, really talented on the perimeter. And so that was probably the best thing I think going forward is KU kind of started to find its identity here in the second game.
Yeah, and you make a great point about the defense. Probably going to be overlooked a little bit because of Frank Mason's shot at the end and the flash from Josh Jackson he showed in the second half. But you're right. I mean, the ability to slide and stay in front of defenders, and Frank Mason and Devontae Graham already coming back off of being on the All Big 12 defensive team a year ago. Add that to Josh Jackson. Add that to the quick twitch of LaGerald Vick, and then the length of Svi Mikhailuk. That we talked in the preseason about how this could be a really, really good defensive team, and like you said, against Indiana, it just didn't show. So the big story to me, when you're looking at it from the defensive aspect, again, Duke, I think by all accounts, is going to be expected to be the number 1 offense in the nation before everything's said and done, just because of the way they play, the way they spread you out, the talent they have. And again, missing 3 of their pieces, which was a big deal, but 1.03 points per possession for Duke in this game. That's a great mark for KU's defense. I mean, again, we can talk about Mason, we can talk about Josh Jackson. The real story of this game was that KU's defense shut down what is and probably will be the top the top offense in the nation come the rest of this season.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't want to I don't want to get too into Duke's team, and I wrote about this in my preview. But Duke's best offense, honestly, once Jason Tatum gets back, will be playing him at the 4 and kind of playing small. But Duke has so much depth on the interior if they are able to get healthy that I'm while they have a ton of offensive talent, by them playing big, I'm not entirely sure they'll be the best offensive team they can be, but they can be a lot better defensively than they've been, in recent history. So, Duke's kind of got some things to figure out. It's almost going to be harder for Duke to figure itself out once they get all those players than it is now. Right now they pretty much have a good idea of what they are just because of they're limited to playing 6 guys. But what Kansas beat last night was still probably a top 10 team. Even though they only have 6 guys, like that's still probably a top 10 team. So no shame in beating those guys without the 3 freshmen they had. So I think it was an impressive win, and I'm getting off track. I don't even know where I was going with this to start, Jesse.
Well, the thing about it is, if you look at Duke, and Duke was still a 2-point favorite, so you talk about this being an impressive win. I mean, KU was the underdog. I know we could throw around the word upset maybe a little bit too much in college basketball, especially when you're on another team's home court, but I'd consider this an upset. I expected Duke to win this game, but Grayson Allen, that to me is the big story. 4 for 15 from the floor, 1 for 7 from 3, 12 points. He's had a few bad Champions Classic games in a row now, but I mean, this is one of the frontrunners for National Player of the Year. And again, KU using that rotation of defenders. LaGerald Vick was on him, Devontae Graham was on him, Frank Mason was on him. All those guys rotated and did a great job. And then, Frank Jackson, he had 11 points on 3 for 5 shooting, but he had bigger offensive performances previously as well. So I think it gets to your point that this could be a very dangerous team for KU, not only offensively because of its backcourt, but defensively because of its backcourt. Because, again, this was no PUDs that KU was facing in the backcourt when you're looking at a guy like Grayson Allen, who is going to be one of the favorites for National Player of the Year.
And yeah, when you look at the potential of maybe these teams playing again down the road, if that happens in a Final Four or a national championship, like everyone's going to point to this and say, oh, they didn't have their full team, yada yada yada. But the way KU beat Duke last night is the way I think they would have a chance against Duke at full strength, because staying in front of Grayson Allen is really, really hard. Like, there's a reason that dude averages 20-plus points a game and was ridiculously efficient last year, because he can shoot the 3, and he can usually get to the rim pretty much whenever he wants. Like, he has this pretty amazing ability, kind of like a Frank Mason in a way, to basically be going at the rim full speed and throw up like these feathery shots that just find a way to go in. So he's really, really, really hard to guard. And KU pretty much took him away. And Frank Jackson's kind of a similar player in a way. And really, until he hit those 2 threes late, he was pretty much non-existent in that game. And KU really took him away. So, I think Kansas showed something, even though those other dudes weren't out there. And let me tell you, like, Jason Tatum is a stud. Like, he might be the best. He might be one of the best scorers in college basketball. But KU's going to have a guy in Josh Jackson that will be able to match up pretty well with him. So I like how KU will be able to match up with just about any team. And the one luxury KU had last night that didn't have against Indiana is Indiana has they can put 5 guys on the perimeter, and you have to guard them all out there. I think it was a nice for KU that you didn't have to worry about Landon Lucas guarding anybody out on the perimeter. Bragg didn't really have to go out on the perimeter too much. So that was also a thing that Duke was maybe a little bit easier to guard than Indiana because of that.
Yeah, just had the traditional big man. Indiana playing more, I heard Tom Crean even say positionless basketball last week, which is kind of what they were doing. And it's amazing with Thomas Bryant. I mean, that guy, he would take an inbounds pass and start dribbling and drive himself. So, it's crazy how versatile all of Indiana's players were. And like you said, put a lot of pressure on KU's defense. Let's go ahead and get to Josh Jackson. What did you think of this game? He's what I wrote about after the game last night. He had 15 points, 7 for 9 shooting, missed all 4 of his free throw attempts, but only played 18 minutes because of fouling out. To me, he showed the flashes of why he's so talented. But this is a different challenge for Bill Self and staff right now, because usually they don't have the guys, and I don't want to use the word pout. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but there are times when Josh Jackson pouts, and he's
emotional.
It's a different kind of emotion than you've seen from KU players in the past, and it's a different kind of player that KU's coaches are kind of having to work with right now. I mean, they're kind of playing part psychiatrist at this point. It's just not something I remember very often with KU's coaching having to do that with especially with one of the top players they have on the team.
Yeah, and I don't really think it's a that big of a concern going forward. Like it's his second game of his college career. He's playing in Madison Square Garden. He gets a couple calls that like the slapping the ball out of. I mean, this really goes back. It starts with like the slapping the ball out of Emil Jefferson's hand, right? And yeah, that was really stupid. But a good official goes up to the kid, says, "Hey, that was stupid. Don't do that. You do something like that again, I'm gonna tee you up." You don't boom give him a tee. Like that's a warning. Like it's. I mean, really, how like is that going to start a fight or anything like that? Maybe if the other kid reacts, you do something. But I thought that was a pretty bogus call. And the other foul where he reacts, he's on the floor going for a loose ball, and that was his fourth foul. And kind of a questionable call. You're just diving for a loose ball. It's his fourth foul. Like most players are going to react in that situation. And then his fifth foul is another kind of bogus call where Luke Kennard kind of does a nice acting job, like to have that be your fifth foul. Like I can understand where the kid's coming from. Like, yeah, he's emotional. He's really, really competitive, which is what you heard, about him coming in. But, I just think it was kind of a circumstantial type thing where, yeah, he does. I mean, your article was on point that he needs to be able to kind of bring that all in and not react too strongly to things. And I think Self did an excellent job by kind of pulling him aside. And, they probably don't win if he doesn't have that awesome stretch in the second half. And I think Self played a part in that, as you kind of wrote in your story. Getting him to just relax and go play. But I just don't see it as a huge thing going forward. And I think you're going to start to see over these next few weeks as KU plays some, just mediocre teams, him getting a comfort zone, him actually be able to play more than 18 minutes and really get going. I mean, what he showed in that stretch in the second half was pretty special. Like the jumpers, really pleasing to see, but the drives, KU's never had a wing be able to handle the ball under Bill Self like Josh Jackson can. And that's what makes him really, potentially I think might have the best freshman season of anybody Self's ever had, just because of the way he can handle the ball.
That baseline drive he had, I mean, that is his strength. That the sooner he realizes that is his strength, the sooner KU's going to be a really good basketball team. And, you talk about the jumpers. Actually, I thought the 3 was a bad shot, and I thought the 18-foot jumper was a bad shot. It's one of those, no, yes, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how you feel every time he shoots it.
Yeah, but the other two, I mean, to me, I still just don't think he understands yet. And again, part of this is being a freshman, part of this is being a kid and starting to learn to play in an offense where there are other good players beside you, but the other two drives were good shots. I mean, he drove, he was aggressive to get to the lane, and he put up the right-handed floater from about 8 feet in, and that's a good shot. And he's also in offensive rebounding position if he misses it. The next one, he drives in, same thing. He gets in the lane, and it's a tough left-handed floater. But I mean, he's going to the rim. He's got the advantage on that. And so those shots, and the baseline drive, and then the right-handed shot, and then the left-handed floater, all those I think were great. And then after that, it was just, again, the no, yes, because the guy was just feeling so confident, and you started to see him take over a game. But not only that, I mean, it is amazing, and this kind of takes me back to the Andrew Wiggins or even Julian Wright comparison. In that stretch, how many ways he can help you out. He can grab a defensive rebound and start the break. He can get a steal and poke the ball away. He can drive and finish with his left hand. He can drive and he can pull up. I mean, it's just crazy to me right now that again, even the stat line doesn't show it yet, but there are so many ways he can help and so many ways he can be versatile to do things to help out the team. It's just a matter of figuring things out. And then, again, it would be such a shame if KU lost in March because Josh Jackson got in his own way. I mean, the guy has got to not let himself be one of his biggest detriments because the talent is there for him to take over. I think Bill Self said afterwards, like, you guys saw that basically, like the kid has got some God-given talent, and that was on display on that 4 minutes. It's too bad it was not only for 4 minutes or 18 minutes rather than 26 or 28. If it was 26 or 28, I don't think that game comes down to a last-second shot. I think KU wins that game pretty easily.
Yeah, and I didn't have those were kind of in a way those were no jumpers just because of the way he shot the ball so far. Though I think he is, didn't you write? He's 40% from 3 so far, so not so bad. But I I don't when you go to the rim and you get a couple buckets that way and then you shoot jumpers, I don't feel as bad about it as if you start with the jumpers. Like, he's the type of guy that he needs to set up his outside shot by going to the rim. And those plays, the two shots he took back to back, correct me if I'm wrong. They're either, like 1-4 ISOs, or I think maybe one was off a ball screen, or were they both off ball screens?
Yeah, they were both 4 up. It was the old Perry Ellis play.
That's what I thought.
He comes and sets the high ball screen, or if in Bill Self terms, the butt screen for the guard, who can either take it either direction and drive the way he wants to, and then you spread the 4 that way. So Bill Self called that 4-up play twice for Josh Jackson. Basically, last year it was Perry Ellis's play. Either Frank Mason can drive, or he kicks it back to Perry Ellis, and Perry Ellis then was so good driving to his left he could do it. But Bill Self was setting those plays up for Josh Jackson. So again, this is not him shooting those shots is probably not out of the flow of the offense and not something Bill Self didn't want him to do. But again, I think he wants him. It's almost, to me, through the first 2 games, I feel like Josh Jackson and Devontae Graham need to switch. I mean, Devontae Graham pump fakes every 3-pointer. I see him, and it's just like, you want to say, Devontae, you are good off the dribble, but you're great shooting the basketball.
His finishes at the rim though last night were special. Like, he was getting up. Like, he showed me something on those.
Yeah,
that kind of surprised me, the way he was getting up. But no, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, the main point, and he was 1 for 6 last night from 3. So again, this is probably not the perfect night to say this. He was 5 for 6 from 2. So you are right. But to me, those, if I'm assessing those 2 players, I'm wanting Devontae Graham to take every open spot up jump shot with his feet set. I don't want him to pump fake. I want him to shoot the 3 and make it. With Josh Jackson, with that jump shot he has, and with the driving ability he has, I want him to pump fake every 3-point attempt and drive into the lane. You know what I'm saying? So you're right, though. If you set up your offense, you get confidence. If your coach is calling your play, Josh Jackson said that to me afterwards. He said, coach was calling my play, and he did a good job calling plays and getting me into the flow. That's great. And we saw Josh Jackson take over. I just think overall, if I'm the coach, I want Josh Jackson to drive. I want Devontae Graham to shoot. And it seems like those 2 players are kind of reversing those roles, at least at this early point in the season.
Now, I just I checked out today your piece that you had on Frank from after the Indiana game, where you wrote about 5 up, and excellent job on that, by the way, Jesse. But
thanks. That's why I have you on this podcast, is just to compliment me nonstop.
Just to compliment you.
I appreciate it.
But the play for Jackson, the 2 we're talking about are similar plays. I mean, it's basically, you flatten the floor out, you come and set a ball screen, and he makes a read.
No, it's CJ. It's the same play, but one is with the 5 position, one was with the 4 position. Bill Self makes his plays very complicated for us to understand.
I know. All right, so it's the same play. So if you go back and watch that, Jesse, what you're going to see, I mean, you broke the Frank one down well. Like, you could see he was pretty much making the right read on all of them, even when he missed. Like, the 3, he's making the right read. If you go back and watch those, I'm pretty sure Jackson's making the right read on those. Like, I think the defenders went up under, or those jumpers were open. And I kind of think about, we've talked about his jumper so much early on, and that it's easy to criticize it just because it looks pretty funky. But there's a video out there from him in like an all-star game or something. I'm not sure what it is, where he drops like 60 or something point. I can't remember how much. It was like a ridiculous amount, right? And I remember watching that video, maybe like a year ago, and he was making like jumper after jumper after jumper. So he's a type of streaky shooter where, like, if he gets going and he's got the confidence, like, he can make, he can put together a string of jumpers. So I just think the important thing is that he sets up his jumper with his drives, which is what he did last night. And I think as long as you see that from him, when he has confidence and he, is taking a couple confident jumpers, I don't think necessarily that's such a bad thing. Because, you look at the other freshman last night who's super talented for Michigan State, and Miles Bridges. I don't know if you had much of a chance to watch that game, but his mentality was drive. And right now they're just, teams are sagging off of him, and it's the game is harder for him because all he can really do is drive right now. I think the game's going to be easier for Josh Jackson if he can do a little bit of both.
Oh yeah, one opens up the other. I guess here, this is what I'm looking at in a statistical sense, and then again, you're looking at it through the Jesse Newell prism here. So I'm sorry, I'm taking you very deep in my world as we go here. Okay, we know this about basketball. Okay, we know that spot up shots are better than shots off the dribble, and we know that the point values of 3-pointers are worth more than long 2-point jumpers. Basically, long 2-point jumpers are the worst shot you can take from a point per possession standpoint. So if you're Josh Jackson, again, okay, off a dribble, you're shooting a 3-pointer. If you're open, okay, I mean that's fine. That's a better option than a lot of other things. And as well, I guess the other thing I would say is if you're counting down KU starters, he's probably third or fourth on the list out of the starters of guys I would want taking an open 3-pointer. But okay, the second one, off a dribble, 18-footer. Okay, you can say that you like that shot or you like it when in rhythm or whatever. It's hard for me to say that's a good shot in any circumstance from any player, just because it's
statistically it's the worst shot in basketball.
Statistically, it's the worst shot in basketball, and there's always another option. You can pass the ball. You know what I mean? Like, just because Bill Self calls for it doesn't mean that Josh Jackson has to shoot on a particular play. There's plenty of times Frank Mason tries to drive, can't do it, throws it out to Svi, and that was one example in the blog that I did, that he threw out to Svi, and Svi actually had an advantage on his defender because everybody was sagged so much in to get to Frank and give him defensive attention that it opened up something for somebody else. So again, that's the Jesse Newell prism. Now, here's the flip side of the Jesse Newell prism that I will say to you. Go ahead and give me right now Josh Jackson's turnover rate through 2 games.
Oh, man. I don't think he's turned it over yet, has he?
0.0%. So the other statistical side of Jesse saying this is like, hey, yeah, that's a really bad shot, but it is a shot, and KU for a while was having trouble getting shots. And this team, to me, and I almost put this in the Frank Mason article, but it was getting long anyway, and there were so many GIFs in there, it was crashing my computer. So, but I also wanted to say this: with as good of a front court as KU has, and playing 4 guards, and giving your team more offensive freedom to make plays like Frank Mason is starting to do, and like Josh Jackson is starting to do with these 4-up and 5-up plays, there very much is the potential for there to be more shots and fewer turnovers. And if there's more shots and fewer turnovers, especially for a Bill Self team, Bill Self throughout the years, his teams tend to have maybe a little bit higher turnover percentage than you would expect from an elite level team. KU could get better offensively just from that number sense as well, just by having better ball handlers and giving his players more freedom to take shots rather than moving the ball, maybe turning it over and losing out on some possessions that way.
Yeah, it's one reason why this team will thrive if they can kind of play a little faster and get out in transition, because you have so many guys that are just built to play in the open court. But here's a stat we should keep, Jesse, and between the two of us, I think we could keep track of it, and maybe we can take turns on it. But I actually think Josh Jackson's a better shooter off the dribble than he is off the catch, which goes against basketball logic. But for him, I think he is. And I think we should keep track of Josh Jackson jumpers off the dribble and off the catch this year. And, after maybe 10 games or so, we can throw that stat out when there's actually a decent sample size. I wouldn't be surprised. My prediction is that he ends up shooting a higher percentage off the dribble than the catch.
My prediction is you are absolutely wrong on this one. Absolutely wrong. That is so rare for a player to do that.
So rare, but I think he is. I think he might be the exception to the rule. I think for some reason he gets in a better rhythm. This is what I've noticed just from watching him in a handful of games, that he gets a better rhythm off the bounce than he does off the catch. And his like long kind of hitch that he has, like his pre-release hitch, I think is worse when he does catch and shoot than when he's off the dribble. So we'll see. I could be totally wrong, but you with me? You're going to help me keep track of this? We'll keep track of it by the game, and we can just keep it on an email chain each game.
Yeah,
what he does.
As long as we get the video. But yeah, even right now, I think you're thinking eye test here, because I mean, the one, remember, that Bill Self hated, the 3-pointer he made, that was a spot up, I know. And then I remember him, this might have been exhibition season, but off a pull-up dribble, I remember he shot an air ball in that. Maybe that was that same game. But,
Exhibition doesn't count. We're
okay.
just going to go on the regular season games.
Oh, okay. No, that would be fascinating to look at. And actually, you're probably giving me more blog topics to look at, even though it's the busiest time of my schedule. So thanks a lot, CJ. Can you back off?
I'll help you with this. We know to watch for it, and we can just make notes as we're watching this game. Okay, that was off the bounce. That was off the catch.
I like that. Well, and here's the thing too. Going switching gears a little bit here. I mentioned this in the blog. I would encourage people to check it out. Just Google KC Star, Frank Mason, Jesse Newell. You'll find it. It's about KU's 5-up play. But I think we have to change our expectations for Frank Mason. Now, the one caveat is he's healthy right now, and we've seen him wear down a little bit over the course of the season. He's not the biggest guy. He falls a lot, all those sorts of things. But the way KU has spread the floor, now he has that one fewer defender, that one less big man inside to have to put up his shot against. I think we need to adjust our expectations for him. I think right now, clearly, he should be KU's leading scorer this year. Do you agree with that? I mean, do you think with the way they're playing right now at this four-guard look that is what he's going to be for this year's team?
Yeah, and it's funny as we were getting closer to the season, and I thought back to our draft. I'm like, man, if I had it to do over again, I would take Frank Mason number one. And these first two games have played out like that. Like, I don't think he's going to average. What's he got right now? 26 or 25.5 a game. Is that right?
25 and a half.
Yeah, 25. Obviously he's not going to average that, but I do think he's going to end up being the leading scorer, but just because he can focus less on being a point guard this year and kind of more on his offense a little bit, because he's got basically two other point guards out there in Graham and Jackson. I mean, Jackson in a lot of ways plays. He has the skill set that's kind of like a point guard. He just happens to be a really tall one.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fascinating to watch here with him. I do want to mention Carlton Bragg. Just overall thoughts on him. He played 16 minutes last night. I had some big plays late, including a jumper that KU really needed. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 for 5 shooting. His offensive efficiency numbers look great, but again, it seems like it's not providing exactly what Bill Self wants in terms of both defense and toughness and defensive rebounding. So a little bit conflicted with what Carlton Bragg is right now. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, I thought he was better last night. I thought he defended better, and even got like a grown man rebound there. I think.
Gosh darn it, CJ! Every time I've been able to click clean on the podcast.
Oh, sorry.
And now I'm gonna have to click explicit just for this one time.
I can't say ASS. I can't say that.
You just did.
Oh, darn
it.
it.
Well, now we both said it. Grown-ass man. Okay, I can officially click the button. Sorry for all the grade schoolers out there or all the parents listening to this in the car. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my bad on that. I'll try to clean it up. And, the baseline jumper that he hits is probably the second biggest shot of the game behind Frank's. I mean, that ended up being huge there late in the shot clock. But no, I thought he was better. I think he's starting to defend a little better. I think he's starting to play with a little more toughness. Obviously, I think it's going to get better. But I think the Bill Self messages are starting to get through, and he's starting to get it. Like, he wasn't awesome last night, but he was serviceable. I thought the biggest revelation to me in that game was Udoka Azubuike is better right now than I thought he would be, in terms of kind of just understanding where to be, understanding kind of how to, he's grown a lot in the last couple of weeks just from those exhibition games, and kind of learning how to play with, granted he had 4 fouls last night, but I think he's getting a lot better at learning how to play without fouling. He's going to foul a lot, but not maybe as bad as it would have been if they would have played this game 2 weeks ago. And, any offense you get out of him is gravy. I'm not sure how I feel about them throwing him the ball on post-ups. Like, I would just throw him lobs and let him finish wide open dunks, and his hands aren't great. Like, that Svi pass was tough that he wasn't able to handle. That was a tough pass, but like most guys should probably be able to catch that. So there's some holes to his game, but like what he gave them last night, they'll take that every single game. Like, he was a huge part of helping them. And I mean, the biggest concern for the depth on the perimeter is probably as good as they've had in a while, I think, just because he has so much trust right now, or he should at least, in Vic and Svi, that having 5 perimeter players, like, that's pretty good. to have 5 perimeter players you can rely on. What's killing them is that they don't have the bigs. They don't have the depth up front. And Dwight Colby, like, turning into basically like to me, he moves like a 50-year-old man. Would you agree with that, Jesse?
He's just lost his explosiveness. I mean, he's non-explosive.
His knee like hasn't responded to the surgery or whatever. I mean, he looks like an old man. So, and he was a pretty good athlete from what I remember at Ole Miss. So I think that's probably the one thing that they're kicking themselves up. The coaching staff's kicking themselves is that they don't have like one more body to throw out there, and it would be Colby's job if he could just move, but I don't think he can move right now. Like from what I've seen out of him, like he's just, the knee hasn't responded or whatever's happened. He just hasn't bounced back like he should have. So I think they could use one more body, but that's what makes Udoka, providing meaningful minutes so important.
I've got another trivia question for you, CJ. I want you to tell me. I know you don't have Ken Pom pulled up 24 hours a day like I do, so I'll go ahead and ask the question since you don't have it pulled up and you can't cheat. Udoka Azubuike's defensive rebounding percentage, and for those people out there, this is the percent of available defensive rebounds that he grabs when he's in the game. So if there's a missed shot, this is the percentage of times he grabs the ball.
And 20% is like elite, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 20 to 25%. Let me look at around there is elite. I think Landon Lucas, let me look at him real quick last year. He was an elite defensive rebounder. Yeah, and he was at 25.5%. That was 42nd nationally. So 25% is elite. 20% is really good.
I'd say since nobody else is really grabbing rebounds, I know he had a lot last night. Obviously this is ridiculously small sample size, so it's going to be like a stupid number. 37.
52%.
52%. I knew it was going to be a stupid number.
So when the opponents miss a shot and Udoka Azubuike is in the game, it's more likely that he grabs it than any of the other 9 players on the court.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Obviously, he will not be able to keep that up. But
if he does, MVP all the way.
What's that?
If he does, MVP all the way.
MVP all the way.
Just give him Big 12 Player of the Year.
He will be Ken Palm's Player of the Year if he does that. No. I mean, he rebounded like a man last night. I guess I could say the other one since I've already screwed this up, right?
Like a GA man, okay?
Yeah, like a GA man. I mean, we probably should have thrown. We might as well throw in like a B on Frank Mason at this point. But his rebounding was awesome, and I thought that's probably the biggest plus out of the. I mean, there's several pluses out of these first 2 games, but him playing above my expectations for me is something that that's probably the biggest plus I wasn't maybe expecting.
Yeah, let's look ahead here real quick. 10 games now for KU left in the non-conference schedule before the Big 12 play starts. I know they still have that game at Kentucky in the middle of the Big 12 schedule with the Big 12 SEC Challenge. But, I posted this on Twitter last night, and KU's win percentages for those 94%, 90%, 99%, 98%, 92%, 99%, 94%, 91%, 93%. So it looks like KU will not lose until 2017, barring a pretty major upset either at home or at Sprint Center, or a huge upset at UNLV, since they're just a team that is so down this year. But you mentioned this point earlier, and you just did mention this point. I think this is the biggest thing for KU in these next 10 games. Develop depth behind Landon Lucas and Carlton Bragg. Develop front court depth. And again, whether that means that Udoka gets in better shape and can play even more minutes, whether that means Mitch Lightfoot is less jittery and can just kind of be a solid contributor out there, whether that means Dwight Colby becomes more explosive, that to me is mission number 1 for KU over these next 10 games, is to develop some of that front court depth so that when foul trouble does happen, or even if an injury does happen, that there is some coverage there.
And here's the thing, it doesn't really matter in the NCAA tournament. Like maybe it will in one game or something because of foul trouble, but you're going to play like a smaller rotation in meaningful games anyway. But where it really matters for KU is just eating up. This sounds weird that you want front court depth for your guards, but when those guys can't get on the floor, it makes it so Self has to play Frank Mason, Devontae Graham huge minutes. because obviously they're going to go smaller for longer periods of time, which makes them have to play more minutes. So that's where I think it's most important. Just if they need to get Graham and Mason in these games that, they're going to win no matter what, they should be playing like 27 to 30 minutes per game, not 37 to 40.
Yeah, and that's what we'll see, I'm sure, against like Siena. Siena actually is a top 100 KenPom team, but KU
not bad.
KU favored by 17 as far as the projections go on KenPom. So again, Bill Self, you saw it last night. Exactly what you said. Frank Mason 35 minutes. Devontae got the 40 minus, and kind of a funny quote from Bill Self afterwards. I guess without 5 minutes left, Devontae Graham basically told Self that he couldn't play. He had the cramps popping up again, and Bill just said, just go stand in the corner. Like, I'm not taking you out. And so that was one of the reasons that Frank Mason kept driving late, is because Devontae Graham basically couldn't do anything. He just stood in the corner on offense because he had those cramps redevelop, which is a weird thing. He's basically battled this every game of the season. So I mean, they're getting the nutritionists involved with Devontae, but this is a weird problem, and it's sort of kind of serious. I mean, you can't have him cramping up. I mean, it's kind of a helpless feeling when you cramp up late in the game and you can't help your team. So that's going to be a fascinating thing moving forward. But any other things that you think KU really needs to harp on or focus on the next 10 games? Like I said, not that KU can't lose any of these games. It's just it's very likely that KU is going to have a lot of opportunity to work on certain things to develop a lot more than the team we saw against Indiana and Duke.
I think a couple things. I think you need to get Carlton Bragg playing however it is Bill Self wants him to play, like developing confidence for him, getting him used to his role. I think that's probably number one on my list of things that like they're going to want out of these next 10 games. Number two, I think Vic and Svi, them getting confidence. Like, I thought Svi played really, really, really well last night. All except missing that open three he had late, and then the gimme layup at the end, which awesome offensive rebound, and then he just misses a layup. Like, whatever, it happens. But I think Vic last night, you could see on all his jumpers, like there just wasn't the confidence there, and we've seen Jesse from watching him in a handful of times this summer, then in the preseason, like the dude can shoot, but I think. It's still, he's still kind of getting his feet under him, getting used to playing in college basketball games. So getting him going, as a reliable option, is big. And then just, also Udoka, him getting comfortable. So really, I'd say those four guys are the guys that are important for I think the long term. I think Jackson's going to get it going and going to get things figured out. I think he started to last night. So the fact that a freshman is starting to figure it out in the second half of the second game of the year, like that's a pretty good sign. Even though he is the number one player in the country, like he's still a freshman. It's still his second college game.
One other point I want to bring up, and I'll go ahead and play trivia with you here because people at home can play the trivia right along with you. It's been crazy, the 2-point and 3-point disparity for KU this year. There's only one player out of the rotation who has shot worse than 50% on 2-pointers. Can you name who that is?
Probably Udoka.
Udoka, 3 for 8, correct. And that's amazing that nobody else on the team has shot or worse than 50%. Okay, now there's one player on the team who has shot better than 25% from 3. Can you name that person?
Josh Jackson.
You pulled up KenPom, you cheater.
No, I didn't.
Oh my God!
You already talked about this earlier. I was like I already said I think he shoots 40% from 3, right?
Yeah, you knew it. Okay.
We already had talked about this.
Well, and that is another thing.
Also, the crazy stat, Jesse. Let's pull this up quick. So I'm sure you know it right off the top of your head. What's KU opponents? The first two KU opponents. What have they shot from 3 to combine?
Ooh, I have no idea. I'm gonna guess 36%.
No. So the first game was, let's just do the math.
Here it is. Yeah, I pulled it up. 46%.
So it's 15 of 31, and but let's see how many threes made too. Duke made 8 of 19 last night. So
that makes the math easy. Yeah, 23 of 50 would be 46%.
Yeah, so you give up 46% from three in your first two games, and Kansas shoots 2 of 17 last night and 7 of 23 the first night. So can you do that percentage real quick in your head?
23%.
So KU shoots 23% from three in its first two games, gives up 46% on the other side, and is like a bucket away from being 2-0.
It's pretty crazy. Well,
I mean, you got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Well, and I had a lot of people, responding to me talking about the 3-point shooting or whatever. Look, KU's going to need three-pointers. It's going to come. They're going to need them, and they've got shooters. Today's college basketball, you can't be one-dimensional. You basically can't be. So, the Frank Mason driving lanes will start to shut down a little bit when teams figure out that KU shoots no threes. So it's just like anything else. It's like in football. You got to, you run a lot and you open up the play-action pass. And in basketball, if Frank Mason just keeps dominating, he's going to draw some help, and he's going to kick it out, and Svi's got to make the three, and Gerald's got to make the three, and everything moves in that sort of way. So KU's going to have open threes. I think they've got enough shooters to be a good shooting team. 2 games is way too small of a sample to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that will be another thing to watch in the next 10 games. How well will KU shoot it? How confidently will KU shoot it? And also, how much will KU shoot it? Because I'm still of the belief that this KU team needs to shoot quite a few threes, especially with the space to the floor offense they have, where teams are going to start to adjust and say, okay, we'll take away Frank Mason on his drive and make you guys shoot from three and prove KU to see if KU can do that. We'll see how much of the offensive adjustment not only happens for KU, but then happens defensively against KU with Frank Mason taking over the leading scoring role.
Yeah, and it's one of the best 3-point shooting teams I think Self will ever have. Like, I think that's how it's going to work out. Like, I mean, Frank Mason's 16.7% from three so far. He's going to be like a 38% 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he's around 40 for his career.
What's Devontae for his career? He's like ridiculous in that percentage. He's 25 so far this year.
He's at 42 for his career.
So I expect him to shoot close to that again. Maybe not that high, but close to that. Svi's 25% so far. You expect him to be like mid-30s or so. Vic is 14%. Like I said, I feel like he's just kind of nervous at this point. He's going to get used to being out there and making shots. So once he gets going, I think he's going to be in the mid-30s probably as well. So I think this has the potential to be one of Bill Self's best shooting teams. So that's not really a concern. That's super small sample size type data so far.
Well, like I said, if nothing else, it's a lot of fun to watch these early season games. Not as much riding on them, but I think that's what one of the kind of the perks of college basketball is that you can take on Indiana and Duke and know that even if 0-2 happened, that it's not going to define your season. So fun to watch these two teams play. Fun to talk about something with KU basketball and to see how the Carlton Braggs, the Josh Jacksons, the Frank Masons are developing into their roles. And man, this is going to be a fun season to watch. I mean, let's just be honest. This team is probably going to go on at least a 10 or 11 game winning streak from here, and we'll see how all the pieces fit by the end. But be sure to check out CJ's coverage on Bleacher Report. He had a great breakdown of KU Duke before the game, doing lots of look into Duke's lineups and small ball and KU and some of the things we've talked about on here. And then also at the Star, we have KUHoops.com out and the new KU Hoops app that I've gotten a lot of good feedback on, but a place to get all your free news and stories and podcasts and everything, free coverage of KU Hoops, just as long as you can click on the ads and make sure that I get at least one paycheck a month. I know that, CJ, you prefer to have at least one paycheck a month, too. The kids appreciate that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I also, I believe, have a Landon Lucas article that'll hit Bleacher Report Monday night. I still haven't written that, so let's hope that happens. But it's supposed to be on the site on Tuesday. So got that to look forward to. I need to write that thing at some point. I don't know when I'm going to do that, Jesse, but I've got a deadline of Monday, so hopefully I can churn that out.
I love you saying first that you believe that it was going to happen when you're the one in charge of it, and I love second that you're kind of talking up the story, which is what you should do when it hasn't been written yet. So you don't even know if it's good yet, but you're talking about how good of a story it is. So I love
No,
that.
I'm not, I didn't say it was going to be good. I just said it was going to be a story.
Well, Listen, you can't even guarantee that at this point. We don't even know if it's going to be a story come Monday.
Yeah,
but
I'll churn it out. I'll get it going.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Jesse, before we go, any good New York stories? Or Hawaii? Like how were these? You've got some miles you've put on your body this last week. How was it, man?
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, the most memorable part, honestly, was getting to Honolulu. We got special permission to go on the base, Pearl Harbor Hickam, with Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam with the team as they toured the USS Chaffee, which is a missile destroyer out there, and it was just kind of a surreal experience, kind of walking around with the team as they got to see how the anchor worked and how the cannon worked and go up, and the stairs basically go straight down on these destroyers, as you can imagine, because to get down, basically the ship goes straight down. So it was kind of funny trying to not only see the players try to get duck their heads down and go straight down these stairs that are like 4 inches long, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this could be a disaster. But it's kind of
Gary.
Yeah, it was even kind of funny trying to see me or Gary go down these stairs because we weren't doing too well with it either. But actually, they took away our cell phones too for one part where it was kind of like the combat room inside, and it looked like a little bit sort of the commercials that you see online, maybe for the Navy with like the radar going around. It's kind of a dimly lit room with all the stations around where people sit, nice. And I mean, it was kind of a surreal feeling. It's like a rush of adrenaline that you can feel if the pressure was amped up, how you would be kind of in the moment and with your team and that sort of thing. So a very cool experience. I know a lot of the players enjoyed it. Josh Jackson kind of walked out and kind of saw a view of Honolulu. Udoka Azubuike was very interested in the binoculars that saw 13 miles away. So, he was really into it. And so I think a very different experience for the players. And I wrote about this at the time. It came on a little bit of a crazy day too, because if you remember, they toured that and saw all these soldiers, did all these patriotic things the day after Election Day. And obviously the election was a very controversial, emotional moment for a lot of people, and especially in the sports world that day. Steve Kerr and Stan Van Gundy both came out and said very public comments about how their teams were reacting to what had happened. So a very interesting kind of dynamic on that day. I think the players really got an appreciation for the military, what they do, for what happens on that ship. A very long day, over 11 hours when KU was touring that and going around the base and doing a kids clinic, all that. But I think definitely worth it. And then they flew on to New York and went to Ground Zero. So I think a very educational and an experience that those guys will remember for a long time. But a very cool thing to just kind of be even a side note, a part of, to be along with the team on that, and just to kind of see how they reacted to it, and then to see something else different for me, because I know I have a friend who was stationed in the military, in the Navy. He was actually, I think he lived about 2 or 3 miles from where we were on that joint base there at Pearl Harbor Hickam. So it was cool to kind of see a different side of life and a different side, these people that are there and serving their country. So something you just don't see every day. I think a lot of people take a lot from that experience and know a little bit more about what goes into the military and what goes into what happens every single day on one of those bases.
Yeah, cool. When a perk of being one of the best college basketball programs in the country is you get to do stuff like that. I mean, not all these teams get those experiences, and that's pretty neat. And also, a perk for you as a beat writer now. Last week when I talked to you and you were in Hawaii, you had yet to see the beach. Did you actually, please tell me you at least step foot in the sand at some point? Because if not, you're just a failure at life.
I did the last day. Yes, Gary and I. There's a very famous restaurant on Honolulu. It's called Duke's. So we went for lunch there, and then I told Gary, I said, I have to go walk down the beach, in my bare feet to at least say that I did it over this 4-day trip. So able to do that, but yeah, Honolulu, just perfect weather, great place, and kind of the Vegas of Hawaii. Kind of you have Saks Fifth Avenue, you got Coach, you've got all Cheesecake Factory. It's kind of a surreal place to be when you're in Hawaii. So very commercialized, but a very cool thing to do. And like I said, I'm sure the players all had a great experience as well.
Nice. That's I'm glad you set foot on the beach, Jesse. I was going to be disappointed, and you're probably a little redder because of it, but I'm glad you were able to pull that off.
I know to keep my sun intake down, so I kept it about 20 minutes because otherwise, I'm one of two shades, either white or red, and I at least remained white after this trip, so that's very good for me. Well, thanks everyone out there for checking out the Sports Beat KC podcast. Be sure to tune in for another episode next week.